Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, 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 wah. Wah, wah, wah.
In the silent void of outer space, puny man matches his cunning against a monster from Mars running rampant, howling for all the flesh and blood on Earth.
Hey guys, Everyday Aficionados here. Today we are taking a look at It, the Terror from Beyond Space. Ooh. It's a science fiction film from 1958, so let's get into it.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Go.
Okay, so space trip to Mars, and they're stranded there, and an alien kills all the crew except for one guy. They send a rescue mission to get him, and they think that this guy killed all the other crew members, but it was really the alien. They're bringing him back to Earth, and the alien sneaks onto the ship, and then slowly the alien starts killing all the crew members one by one. They realize that it isn't the guy that killed his crew members, and it really was this alien creature. They try to kill it with all these progressively worse weapons that don't work, and then it's ridiculous because they keep trying to blow up all these ridiculous weapons on their ship, and it doesn't kill the alien, and there's this love story in there somehow, and then they end up killing the alien by getting rid of his oxygen, which is something that he lives with on Mars every day, but it doesn't make any sense, and then the movie's over, and that's pretty much it. And it's really quick summary because this film doesn't really have that much going on with it, and it's only an hour long.
Okay, with time to spare. Good job. So one of the big highlights, I think, for this movie is definitely the way the atmosphere is established with all these different techniques, like the lighting, the way the scenes are shot, and the atmospheric music. For example, the chess scene, I think, is one of the strongest shots in the film, where you've got like this cigar smoke coming up from the people smoking, and everyone's just kind of leaning back in their chairs, relaxed. It's really harsh lighting, where you've got these well-lit spaces and these completely dark spaces. It's just really effective and really dramatic.
This film is really like a textbook example of how to use black and white to your advantage. They use shadows and lighting beautifully in this film. And one of the biggest ways that they use it is they keep the creature in the shadows a lot. It's great for creating that suspenseful atmosphere. You can also tell that if they ever did show the creature in the light, it would probably look a little disappointing and probably take away from that atmosphere. So they do a great job of keeping that creature in the shadows. That makes it look more ominous, and it makes it a little bit scarier.
And another little scene that I think worked really well was the trek outside the spaceship, because there's absolutely no sound except that eerie ambient music. And even though nothing eventful happens outside, it just sets this really grounded tone that, again, I did not expect from a cheesy 50s science fiction movie.
So another highlight for me would be the sets that they use in this film. One of the big sets that I really liked is the inside of that ship. It looks like it's used, it's believable. There's like boxes and crates and barrels everywhere. And it has this really nice claustrophobic feel to it that just kind of adds to the atmosphere of the film. You feel like they're trapped in here with this creature, and it's just really creepy. Another set that I liked was the first set that you see, the Mars set, where it's got like the matte painting in the background of the stars and like the terrain of the planet. It's really cool.
Also, going off of that, I like the kind of everyday banter between the people. It's a lot like Alien, where you have like, it even starts off with that lunch scene between the characters where you get to know their different personalities and everything. And you really do feel like they're living in this ship together.
And of the characters, my favorite one has to be Jimmy, the one that gets trapped downstairs between like the two things, and he's got the torch and he's trying to keep the monster out. You feel bad for that character being trapped there. You want to see him live. He comes out with like some decent one-liners and stuff. He just seems like an interesting character.
One of my favorite things about this movie is just how gruesome it is. For example, that scene with Gino. They find him in the vent and he's still alive. So the creature hasn't killed him yet, but it's drained him of most of his bodily fluids or whatever the creature does. And he's sitting there in the vent, like, hanging on to this last bit of life, and he knows that the only thing that's going to happen to him is he's going to be slowly killed by the monster, and he's waiting for death. And the film shows it. Usually a film from this era would only imply something so gruesome. It wouldn't really show it. But this movie didn't shy away from it. And it was pretty intense, that scene. And again, then that character's guilt afterwards brings it all home, like where you feel this isn't just a science fiction movie for gruesome things to happen. It's actually affecting the psychology of the characters. And they're getting worn down, and they're, doing things that they're regretting, and they're making bad decisions under immense amount of stress. Like the captain, for example, he's a character who I really like. He becomes hallucinogenic because of this infection that he has, and he ends up almost killing the whole crew because of it. Also, other little touches, like they actually show the monster dragging around dead bodies. It's pretty intense.
One of the big things that stands out for me is just some of the unbelievable things that happen in this film. For one, they let this criminal that they think murdered his crew, they let him run free on the ship, and they just basically try to talk it off by saying, like, oh, you're always going to have someone with you, so you can't kill any of us. And then the women stick up for him, and they feel bad for him for some reason, even though they don't know themselves what happened on that planet. And then one of them falls in love with him.
You're picking up this person accused of murdering 9 other people, and there's a creature on board that's killing everyone, and how is that a convenient place to fall in love with a person who you just met literally a day ago?
And then another one of the unbelievable things is the whole plot that this alien must kill these people in order to feed off of them and survive. He just killed one person and sucked the life out of them, and now he needs to get another? He's been living on Mars without a giant food supply for his entire life, and now all of a sudden he needs to kill people every minute or else he's going to starve.
Yeah, I mean, they explain that Mars is a desolate planet and that there's almost nothing there. And they even say that the creature must have been surviving off of small animals or something. So why is it suddenly so gluttonous? Mm-hmm. Why does it need to constantly be feeding on these giant people?
And then there's a few other nitpicky details that I noticed that are kind of unbelievable. The dead crew members that they thought this one character killed have turned into skulls, even though it only happened 6 months ago. You don't just decay all the way down to a skull in 6 months. The guy's in the bottom of the ship. His face mask is detached. He even acknowledges that it's detached at some point, but then he says that he's surviving off the oxygen that he has left over, which makes 0 sense.
Another weird thing about this movie is just like the constant amping up of the armaments they use. It's kind of insane. I mean, you would think like, wow, they're not really gonna get that ridiculous, are they? But they literally throw everything at it. Even from the get-go, it's not like they start out small. The first planned attack they use is an entire box of grenades that they put in their engine room. I was like, what?
There's no concern of destroying their own ship at all in the process of upping the ante.
Yeah, I mean, at first they figure out guns aren't effective.
And then they continue to shoot at it.
Yeah, and then, again, with the grenade scene, they wire up these vents with an entire box of grenades. When you see it, it looks almost comical, like the movie's making fun of itself. Mm-hmm. And then the creature sets off the grenades, and he's just, like, mildly annoyed at it. And nothing happens to the ship somehow.
So then they continue to up the ante, and the next plan of action would be the use of gas grenades. They open up the hatch, and they start chucking gas grenades down at it. And it's just like, just chilling out.
Yeah, they then electrify the ladder. And then the monsters just go like, ugh, ugh. And it keeps putting its hands back on the ladder. It's just like testing it.
Yeah, there's sparks shooting out of its butt and everything. The next plan of action after that is when the captain of the ship, who's kind of delirious, he goes and unshields the reactor while the creature's stuck in the nuclear reactor room, and the creature just kind of like brushes it off its shoulder. It's just like, oh, radiation. And then you just unleashed radiation on your ship that you need to live on until you get back to Earth.
And none of them get radiation sickness, even though the captain says there's enough radiation to kill 100 men.
They just kind of brush it off, and they don't even acknowledge it later, that the fact that the ship is now filled with radiation. The final anti-upper would be they try to use a bazooka on it. and the bazooka just kind of shoots sparks and it doesn't do anything. But they finally do kill the creature by removing the oxygen from the ship. A creature that lives on Mars gets killed from a lack of oxygen. So one more low light for me would be like the convenient plot driving devices that they use in this film. It relies a lot on voiceovers from like the main character, the criminal guy, to drive the plot forward, and sometimes to explain things that don't even really need to be explained. They just go without saying. You could literally just show the scene and you'd still know what's going on. The film opens up with exposition and it closes with exposition, and there's at least 3 or 4 periods of exposition in between that.
And finally, last low light, it's got to be the obligatory sexism that every science fiction movie from the 50s apparently has. There are 2 women characters on the ship, and both of them do women things. So, for example, bringing sandwiches and coffee to the male crewmates, acting as nurses and caretakers. They're the ones who are sympathetic to the criminal guy. And of course, the one woman has to fall in love with him, even though they just met the other day, because, oh, well, you can't have a female character who's not in love with someone.
I think this is a really great B science fiction flick. You could tell that they really did a good job of using the tools that they had to make this film. You're not going to be blown away by its special effects or anything like that, but they're charming in like a cheesy sort of way. And it's really interesting how this film is sort of like a slasher too, before the slasher genre was a big thing.
I totally agree. I love the grim atmosphere. I love how gruesome it is. It pushes the limits in a lot of ways that I didn't really expect. I found it legitimately scary and tense. And it's also cool how you can definitely see how Alien was really influenced by it.
So, as for a rating, we're going to give this one 2.5 irradiated crew members out of 5.
It had lots of niggling little problems, but at its core, it was really well made and really effective for what it was trying to do.
Thanks for watching.
See you guys next time. And remember to look at the mic.
The camera.
Yes.
I mean, I could sit here and go like this the whole...
Okay, whatever, Shawn. Whatever.